Welcome to Morrison Madness. Hope everybody's having a good spring. COVID virus rates going down.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting vaccinated. Snow's
nice
melting.
out.
Yeah. Hopefully there's no snow still on the ground at this point.
When this publishes. Yeah.
So all the time when you're on Facebook or Instagram or other places, or even like I've seen articles in magazines, and people will say, what would you tell your younger self?
Sure.
If you could go back and do things different, what would you do?
Sure.
Or, if you could have $1 million right now, or you could go back in time and change things, which one would you take?
Sure.
And personally, I would go back and fix things.
Yeah.
And so I thought that would be a good topic
Okay.
for a podcast.
All right.
And again, this is one of those things, I was talking with our AV guy, if you're going to change things, that you always want some caveats. I don't want to change things to the point where I wouldn't have my kids.
Right.
I don't want to do that differently. I wouldn't want to change things to the point where you're not a part of my life. They're just little things that I would do. Maybe I should rethink that one. They're smaller things that would have had a bigger impact.
Sure.
So when I was in the military, before I was in the military and had shoulder problems, I probably should have had surgery on my shoulders before I went in the military. And then my shoulder wouldn't have got torn up. Hopefully, maybe.
Would they've let you in the military after the surgery, though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I mean,
because I could have had the surgery in the military.
Right.
So, and when I was in the military, I wish that I would have taken the time to read the paperwork, ask more questions, understand better.
Right.
I didn't realize that I was getting fully discharged from the military.
Right.
And then, I come home and go to have the surgery and it's not covered by anybody.
Right.
And then Medicaid refused to pay it for some stupid reason. And then, here I am, 19, 20 years old, stuck with a $30,000 medical bill.
Right.
Ended up filing bankruptcy. Well, I mean, I've hemmed and hawed about that one. I still think that probably was the right thing to do, even though that haunts you for 7 years. Knowing what I know now.
Declaring bankruptcy was
Right.
the right thing to do, not leaving the military to have the procedure done. You would have wished you would have stayed in the military.
Yes.
Okay.
But even declaring bankruptcy, I don't think at that time I could have recovered from that.
Yeah, that would have been tough. I mean, it takes a long time at 20-something. And again, no college degree, so it's not like you're starting off with a 30,000 plus job a year kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I was making good money, but that's...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably would have taken you 7 years to try and pay that off because you would have gained interest and then you would have, how many other problems too.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, I mean, I think everybody has those little things when they look back. They wish they would have done them or done them differently.
This is a very somber episode, but
Well,
okay.
sorry.
No, that's okay.
So, when I came back from the military, my mom offered to pay for me to go to school. And I went for one semester. I had no idea what I was doing.
That's all right. Most college kids don't. Even if they think they know what they're doing, they don't necessarily, it's...
So, I mean, and it was horrible. I mean, I don't... The math teacher, I could barely understand her.
Yeah.
She had such a thick, heavy accent. And then she had this policy that if you missed a class, you couldn't make up any of the work in that class. There was no exceptions. And I was on my way to class, and some guy comes flying out. The class was out at West High, right?
Okay.
And I'm on my way to class, and this guy comes flying out of the Fieldhouse parking ramp and hits my car, knocks me into the other lane in front of a city bus, and the bus hits me.
You've been hit by a bus twice in your life?
Yes.
This is new to me.
So there's no way I'm making it to class.
Things happen in threes.
Yeah.
You're not driving anymore.
Whatever.
Or you're not riding with me in the car either.
There's no way I can make up. There's no way I can make it to class.
Right.
She didn't care. So she gave me an F on the test that we were having that day, and I'm just like, this is not worth,
Yeah, that's frustrating.
you know.
Right.
The other classes that I was taking that semester, I had good grades in, but I missed the final for my speech class, and I thought that I had a high enough grade in there that it wouldn't hurt me that bad. I didn't realize the final was weighted that heavily, and the teacher gave me a D, which I thought was not very kosher, but whatever.
Darn teachers.
And, you know, so I had a lot of frustration. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I quit going to school.
Right.
The other two classes, I think I had an A and a B in. I regret that. I wish I would have finished school then, because I've tried to go back to school how many times and, you know, have never actually finished.
Life gets in the way or
Right.
other stuff, yeah.
Yep. Kids, my autoimmune condition. I mean, there was a period in time when I went back to school the third time that I went to school for 2 full years and only got a semester and a half of classes taken.
Right.
Because of my illness. I would get sick and miss so much school I'd have to withdraw.
Are you going to share what your autoimmune condition is, or do you not want to?
We've talked about it before. I have more than one.
Well, right, but the main one that...
rheumatoid arthritis is the one that causes me the most issues.
Just in case this is their first episode or something.
Yeah,
watching.
could be. And before it was under control, I mean, I would get flare-ups to the point where my hands would swell up. They'd be 3 times the size there. I couldn't hold a pen. I couldn't type.
Right.
You know, I couldn't do anything. It's not that the school didn't try to be accommodating. Most teachers did. You can only miss so much school, and then you're screwed.
Right.
You know?
You personally can't even make it up in time to do anything, yeah.
Correct. So it took me forever, you know, to get through a lot of the classes. And school is probably my biggest regret. You know, it's just one of those things I wish I would have done differently.
Sure.
If we're doing this in a time order, I mean, I'm trying not to jump around. You know, there's a lot of investments that I made that that were risky that I wish I wouldn't have done. And there's one I almost never talk about.
That's gonna be fun.
I bought $3,000 worth of McLeod stocks. And at the time, that was quite a bit of, I mean, for, you know, middle income family, that was quite a big chunk of change.
And this was what, back in the 90s? Or are you still in the 80s?
No, this would have been the early 2000s.
Okay.
And I thought, because he had originally built up a company called Teleconnect or something like that, and it was a great company. He sold it off, and everybody made a shit ton of money. And then in selling that off, part of the sale agreement was that he couldn't do another telecom company for so many years. Well, when that time had expired, he started another company, and these were local companies out of Cedar Rapids, right?
Okay.
And so I really thought that he would turn this company around.
Sure.
He was going to sell off the phone book part of it and use that money to reinvest back into the telecom part of not Mediacom. The hell did I say? McLeod. And focus more on the business side of the company or whatever. And yeah, he ended up filing bankruptcy. Well, if you know anything about common stocks, you're just
sunk.
You're screwed. Yeah, the last person that gets any money is those people. The creditors got all the money, and
right.
I mean, he ended up coming out of bankruptcy. But at that point, you know, I'm not going to buy more stocks to help pull you out of bankruptcy.
No, right.
So, and ever since then, I really don't care for the stock market.
Right.
And again, you know, I knew enough about stocks to know that it was a risk, but not enough to understand. I know the difference now, and I still won't buy them. The difference between common stocks and preferred stocks and all of that kind of stuff, you know, and who has what rights, who gets to vote, who gets money first, all of that kind of stuff. To me, it's just a form of legalized gambling.
Right.
I would just as soon take $1,000 and go to the casino. I think your odds are just as good to double your money.
Sure.
So, what are some of the other things? I wish that, and I was talking with the AV guy about this, when I had the pet store, I had a lot of things happen in a very short period of time. I feel like in a 12 to 18 month period of time, we lost the two big anchors in our strip mall. We were the largest independent retailer of Iams and Eukanuba in the state, and they sold to Procter and Gamble, and Procter and Gamble put it in Walmart and Hy-Vee and every place else. So we had to switch dog foods. I wish it got to the point where, and then I started going through a divorce with the boys' mom, and I couldn't run the store and be there 80 hours a week and take care of my kids. I couldn't find a full-time nanny to help me with the kids. I couldn't find a full-time manager to help me with the store.
Right.
And it just got to the point where, and the people who own the mall refused to work with any of the tenants. I mean, half the tenants ended up, filing bankruptcy or just closing their stores or whatever.
Right. Because they wouldn't let you out of your lease.
And they wouldn't lower the lease. I mean, we're paying some of the highest dollar per square foot based on the fact that Best Buy was in the mall and Econofoods was in the mall, but they were both gone.
Right.
I was the biggest store in the mall. I was the lead traffic store.
Right.
Yeah, and my traffic was down 50% because the anchors were gone.
Right.
So it got to the point where I just decided to close up the store. And this person that was a friend of mine, he offered to come and get as much of the stuff out of the store as possible and resell it and split it with me. And he took 2 huge trailer loads out of the store. And then instead of splitting it with me, I mean, I got less than 10 cents on the dollar.
Ugh.
And had I realized that, I mean, looking back now, I would have went and rented storage units, put all the shit in storage, sold it off myself,
Right.
or found another place at some point with a better price point, more
open a
traffic,
store
and
again.
open my own store. Yes, again.
Sure. Makes sense.
So, when I was married to Grace's mom, we bought a house in Wellman. It was a great piece of property. It wasn't that expensive, and we had extra money to put money into the place. I will... Not only will I super inspect a house, but if I regret that we didn't go after the owner, but in all honesty, there's probably not much we could have done. We probably would have had better luck going after the realtor. The basement flooded so bad, the house filled up with mold. You can't tell me that had never happened before.
Right.
And so we just had to walk away from it. And honestly, at that point, you're in the middle of a divorce and you're walking away from a, $70,000 piece of property. I ended up having to file bankruptcy again.
Right.
And I'm not an advocate for bankruptcy, but having had to do it twice, it hurt a lot. It sucked. It was a struggle to get back out of it. But I don't think there's any, as a single parent, what could I have done?
Right.
Other than that?
Right.
But I can tell you, I mean, when we looked at this property, we looked at it and looked at it and looked at it and, went over everything. So that's the kind of stuff that when I think about, I don't ever think, oh, I would have never married, the boys' mom, or I wouldn't have married my daughter's mom. I'd love my kids. I would not miss out. I mean, even when I want to throttle them, I still love them, Just because I want to throw them in front of a bus doesn't mean I don't love them. And
Kick them in front of the bus.
whatever it takes, All of the memories of teaching them to read, teaching them to ride a bike, teaching them how to cook,
Right.
everything, how to get dressed, what clothes go together, and that outfit does not go together. I don't care, I'm wearing it. Okay.
Yep. Take a picture of that because we're going to use that later.
I think those are the big things. There's lots of little decisions that you make that oh, that was a dumb decision. I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Sure.
But there's plenty of big ones. I wish that, while I'm not unhappy with the fact that I've had numerous jobs, I sometimes wonder if I would have been able to buckle down and concentrate on one job, would I be further ahead in my life?
I think if you would have been able to keep the pet store, it was varied enough work that you probably wouldn't have burnt out of it, But maybe not. Maybe as time went on, it would have changed enough to where it wouldn't be varied. I don't know.
I can tell you that of anything that I have ever done in my life, and I mean, I love bartending, I love DJing. The pet store, I never, even like, I would have to be throwing up to not go in. I could feel like just god awful miserable. As long as I wasn't throwing up, I would still go in and work, and I would work 12, 15-hour days. I loved it.
Right.
I loved helping a customer resolve the issues with their cloudy fish tank, or helping them teach their bird to talk, or demite their iguana, or make sure that they had the right equipment so that their iguana didn't get sick. They had to have specialized lights, and I loved teaching myself about all of that stuff and learning about all of that stuff. And I mean, we got to the point where we were breeding birds, we were breeding reptiles, we were breeding fish. Yeah, I mean, I loved it.
And that's the thing. I think because you were able to do that wide variety, and you didn't just have dog supplies and treats kind of thing. You were doing a wide variety of animals and all that kind of stuff. I think then the variety was there so where you wouldn't burn out. It's a lot of varieties in a short period of time. But because that's part of why we've talked about that we have more than one company, is because as much as you love DJing, there are times where you're like, I need a break.
Right.
I just don't, I don't want to do it no more. I just need it. And it's like a week, and then you're like, yes, so I miss DJing. It doesn't take very long.
Well, and I love the gaming store stuff,
right. Right.
But, I mean, there's too many game stores in this area.
Right.
And so it's hard to make a full living income off of that.
Yes.
So.
Well, and a game store, if it had a storefront, an actual building, a lot of the Magic the Gathering stuff happens on the night in the weekends.
When we were DJing. And
so we had to kind of choose, do we want to DJ or do we want to have a store open? And so it made more sense for us at the time to do the DJ side.
We still have a storefront. It just, the virus, we're not open right now because of the virus. But
doing the Magic...
But going down to a smaller thing and mainly focusing on the online stuff, yes.
Yes. But yeah, so not having the
tournaments and the Friday Night Magic. Yeah.
Yes. Because you can be open, for a few hours every day kind of thing, and not be open 40 hours a week, and not be there every Friday night from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. because you're doing Friday Night Magic or whatever the time was for that. But that was the time that we would DJ. And our first main DJ gig or KJ gig, karaoke gig, was Friday nights. And so we had to choose.
And Saturday nights. And we were making a lot more money doing that than we were bringing in for the game store.
Well, and you had a partner that was all about doing the Friday Night Magic at the time, but then when he was over it, then yeah.
Well, it's not that he was over it. I mean, he
got busy.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was going to school and he got into a relationship and
right. But so then he couldn't do them anymore. Then yeah, it would make more sense to go to a smaller store. But that's part of why we have the multiple businesses. So then that way there's variety for you in what we're doing. And I'm the same way. I mean, that's part of why when I worked at Honors, I love the variety. Every day was a different event, activity, and every semester is different.
I think the big thing I would do is I would go back and tell my younger self, finish school and don't be so trusting.
Yeah.
Read the fine print, reread the fine print, flip the page over, look on the back. Get out a black light, put some lemon juice on it. See, there's something that you're missing,
Sure.
And again, a lot of that's my own fault that I was too trusting with people, too trusting with landlords, business opportunities, partnerships, things like that. I had a lot of those that...
Well, and even tenants. I mean, since we've been married, we've been trusting with tenants on... Well,
that's why we got out of
having the rent house. I mean, we tried to have that house when the kids were still little as a rent house, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we got out of doing that in this area, at least.
And I think that's a big thing. And I think if those things were different, and again, not that I'm unhappy in my life.
No, right.
I love my life. I love my kids. I love my wife. We're not rich, but we're not poor.
You guys heard that, right? He does love me. That was a question a few episodes ago that we were like, it's working so far, but we'll see about the next time.
Oh, it's getting thin. I might have to call your mom and get a refund. If I change those little things, I feel like I would be in a better place in my life to provide for myself,
right,
for you, for my kids,
right,
going forward. That's really the important stuff right there.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know if any of you reflect on those kinds of things. I hope that maybe gives you a little insight into your own things you would do different or whatever. I mean, honestly, the things that I would tell myself are the things that I try to tell my kids.
Yes.
But I can't get them to listen either, so.
No. No, they have to experience it for themselves.
And I think that was my problem. I had to experience all of that, and it took me 50 years to be like, yeah, I don't trust shit anymore. I don't trust the government.
Until tomorrow.
Nothing. I don't. Even when the water is boiling and steaming, I don't trust that it's hot. I got to test everything out. I trust nobody. Anyway, thanks for joining us on this episode of Morrison Madness, and check us out on all our social media sites.
Yeah.
There's so many social media sites, I don't even know which ones we're on anymore.
Yeah, so we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
We are not in the clubhouse. We are not Apple people.
No.
We are orange people and pineapple people.
Pineapple, absolutely.
And we do
Big
not.
on pineapple.
We're not in the clubhouse.
No.
So
no.
Putin got an invite, but we didn't.
Yeah. So we do have a website, and you should be able to link to everything from the website.
Instagram, Twitter.
Right.
The basement.
But yeah, and we have a group on Facebook as well as a page. So if you find our page, you can join our group. We post a few extra things to the group once in a while. We need to be better about that. But if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you're liking and subscribing and sharing our information. Talk to other people about our podcast too, if you're listening on podcasts, what have you. But if you want to ask us questions, you have topics we want to cover, you want us to cover. Yeah.
Well, and be sure and tune in for the next episode, because the next episode will be things that Lachelle would tell her younger self, or that she would do different, have done different.
Oh.
All right. Until then.
Have a good time.